Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your host, Steve and Jeff and Steve. Who's doing this? Who's doing this?
Who are we?
Who are you?
I don't know.
Mate, we're doing amino acids today.
Yeah.
We're doing 6 of the most prevalent, well-known, most used. We've come back, we've cheated. We've actually done the podcast. We're coming back to do the intro now. Just a little secret. Because it was great. It was really interesting. In fact, a lot more to it than what I actually thought. A lot more.
Oh, yeah.
And Steve and I are going to get into it. If you think you know amino acids, with the research and the information that's coming back, some meta-analysis that you've done, Steve, there's some really cool new information in here.
Really
and some things.
interesting stuff.
And for me personally, and I'll say this as someone getting back into gym, I'm pretty pathetic at the moment, Steve. I'm training like 3 times a week. Tony's like, but I'm getting back into it, right? It really has made me change my supplementation regime based on what I've just learned. So I'm actually going to be changing things up a little bit, adding a few things, reducing the amount of some of the things that I'm taking. Because at the end of the day, you want best bang for your buck. If you're going to spend time in the gym, maximize your efforts. And so this might, it might make you look at adding in some amino acids into your training regime, whether it be pre, during or post, but it also might make you change the way that you take them and how much you use. So anyway, both of us loved this one.
I love this one.
So
good.
Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Amino acids, where do you want to start? So I know that you've got a few.
6.
We've got 6. I think of probably, well, is this correct that these are the 6 most used amino acids?
Yes, for sporting performance.
And what's really funny is that there's been, with a few of these, there's a little bit of controversy. I mean, we've obviously shared some information on creatine recently in terms of the most effective, cost-effective, and the best timing to take that. And we'll recap on that as well too. But, mate, branched-chain amino acids, there's so much controversy.
There is. I mean, are they good? Are they bad? What do they do? All I've picked on is the very recent, and I've used meta-analysis studies in this one, randomized trials. So I've got the information that's quite solid on these.
And this is the beautiful thing about looking at products that we've used in the past, is that science catches up and we go, you know what? Here's who should use it. Here's how much you should use. Here's the optimal amount to use. And actually, here's how it works. So do you want to start at the top of the list and work through?
Sure, let's go.
All right. Acetyl-L-Carnitine. Now, known as probably the most effective fat-burning amino acid because it is required, Steve, for the
transportation of fatty acids into the mitochondria. The enzymes. Carnityl palmityl transferase.
There you go. And easy for you to say, Steve. But basically, my understanding of the basic layman's term, Steve, and then you can obviously get into it. Anyone looking to lose body fat should be looking to utilize L-carnitine, of which the acetyl form is arguably considered to be the best.
Best absorbed, gets into the brain, does other things in your brain, which is good for what we're talking about today.
Sure. So the other forms of L-carnitine, just really quickly, are elemental L-carnitine. You've got L-carnitine tartrate. Funnily enough, which I used to recommend a lot because it had a positive effect on testosterone production.
It does.
But most people don't care about that. Most people that are taking L-carnitine want to burn fat. So layman's terms, and again, L-carnitine, depending on what it's attached to, helps to take fat that's floating around in the bloodstream and actually transports it into the mitochondria. Now, the mitochondria is effectively the fuel, the furnace inside your cell. So muscle cells, and so what the body will do, and you correct me where I'm wrong, Steve, because I've got a layman's term of it, right? So basically, it helps with the transportation of the fat into the muscle cell where it burns that for energy. So obviously there's a few things going on with fat that you want. Calorie deficit, so the body is forced to liberate fats. You can use other things like caffeine and beta-3 antagonists, which help to, your little fat cells sitting there like a little capsule. And inside there's all your fat. And if you're eating too many calories and your insulin's high and all the rest of it, these are populating, estrogen's out of control. So
they're filling up.
So the environment has to be right. But if you can get a calorie deficit, you can increase, energy expenditure where the body goes, my gosh, we need more energy reserves and we've run out of our glycogen, we've run out of our blood glucose, which is why we like fasted cardio, which was why we like obviously calorie deficit and this is if it fits your macros or make it fit your macros comes into it, right? Your body then goes, right, well, let's release that. So this is not happening with the release. This is happening once that fat has been released to take it into the mitochondria and basically put it into a furnace and burn it.
Correct. That's exactly right. Now, the way we liberate out of the fat cells are all those things, calorie deficit, but exercise. Getting adrenaline up. Adrenaline, there's receptors for adrenaline or epinephrine, whichever country you're from, and it liberates fats once you hit it with adrenaline.
Yep. So caffeine's great.
Caffeine's great. Yep. Synephrine is good.
Yep.
Because synephrine is like epinephrine.
Yeah. Is that like the bitter orange?
Bitter orange, yeah, absolutely. So combining bitter orange with, say, acetyl-L-Carnitine is brilliant for burning fat.
Yep.
And then there's crazy other stuff, that sort of thing. But those two things combined alone will liberate fat and burn the fat.
So while it's floating around, what is we know that how does that actually help with the transportation of that fat into the bloodstream? Because I know there are other compounds which can provide support that I used to recommend, which are phospholipids, which is methionine and inositol, I think, specifically as far as those amino acids. Now, we're not going to talk about those ones today. They're cursory. And look, for the most part, if you're eating a relatively well-balanced diet high in protein, you should be getting enough of those. Absolutely. And look, you don't want to get too much methionine. Too much methionine creates a backlog, which can create problems in the veins.
Homocysteine.
Homocysteine, which is actually is a bit of a coagulant, Steve. Is that the problem?
Well, it's worse than that. What it does is it can cause heart disease and Alzheimer's.
And methionine is typically found really high in which sorts of foods, Steve?
Well, certain protein-rich foods that are high in methionine are sulfur-based amino acids. This is sulfur-based amino acids.
Sure.
So anything that's like too much meat. Yeah. Too much meat. Too much. Bad. Yeah. Too much animal protein.
And it's funny because I used to sell a lot of methionine. Fantastic for hangovers. Fantastic for actually methionine and that sort of stuff. But too much of a good thing is a problem. Anyway, these are supporting amino acids.
They are.
So the actual L-carnitine, Steve, specifically, how does it take the fat from the blood and actually transport it? Like how does that happen?
The way things are moved in the body are via catalysts or biological catalysts called enzymes, and they make reactions happen. So what there is carnitine is part of an enzyme called carnitine-palmitoyltransferase, and that actually binds to fat cells and transports it across the fatty membrane into the mitochondria, into the electron transfer chain, all that to be burnt as energy. So it's actually like the way I like it is like a bouncer, and you've got the front door and you've got the back door. Okay, and at the front door you've got a guy called Mel, and at the back door you've got a guy called Carl. Okay, and you see where I'm going with this. Mel and CoA stops fat going in. Carl lets the fat go in the back door.
Right.
So what you want is Carl on the door.
Right.
So if Carl's on the door, you increase Carl by increasing carnitine.
Yep.
And Carl just takes over and pushes fat into the cells. If you eat a lot of sugar, Mel takes over. Yeah. Because Mel says, no fat, you got to burn the sugar first. You got to burn the sugar. There's too much sugar in the blood. It's dangerous. Got to burn it.
So for people that are doing ketogenic-based diets, for people that are and then what's the other one that we talk about, Steve, where the fat is actually higher, but you're not actually taking it through the roof. You're just eating more protein and fats. What's that?
The paleo diet?
Yeah, paleo and other things like that.
Atkins diet. There's
Atkins and what? Yeah. Anyone who's following a keto-based diet, Atkins-based diet, high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet, L-carnitine should be one of the absolute first supplements that you go for.
Yeah.
So, anyway, excellent product, should be taken. Now, your body does obviously have a little bit of reserve of L-carnitine.
And it can make it. Yep. But if you're doing the fasted cardio, it's great to have it when you're exercising, because you drink it. Yep. And you need about 2 to 2.7 grams, depending on the study. Yeah, I'm getting very specific here.
Yeah, right. I've always gone with 2, and that has not changed, Steve, in 20 years since I've been recommending it.
If acetylized form absorb better, so 2 grams is plenty of that.
Yep.
Yeah, they say 2.7 for any of the other ones, because if you think of, I won't get too nerdy with the chemistry, but if you think of carnitine tartrate, the tartrate bit has to be added in.
Right.
And that's the 0.7.
Right.
That makes sense.
Well, so with acetyl, what is it?
Way better absorbed.
Yep.
And still
we know that acetyl crosses the blood-brain barrier. It does, yeah. But in the body, why is it preferred for burning fat?
It's firstly preferred for absorption. It gets across the gut better. And so it gets across the membranes better with the acetyl form. So the gut membrane and the brain membrane. So it's more systemic. It gets to more parts of the body.
So what's funny is that I remember going into a lady when I was very young, and she was great, and it was actually a very old brand. I'll mention it because it's called Musashi, I went in there and it was in a white with a pink, and it had sort of like pink stripes down it.
Yep.
And
I remember that one.
Mate, they were great back in the day.
They were tiny.
Yeah, they were. And she goes, oh, this is the Rolls Royce of fat burning. And I had no clue, right? I'm just like, oh, I need it. I need that, need that, need this. But that was the elemental form, I believe. Yeah. And the tartrate, Steve-O, which is still beneficial, but how does the tartrate actually support testosterone? Do you know?
Even acetyl-L-Carnitine supports testosterone production.
Really?
By dopamine, It's an interesting pathway.
Yeah, right.
But the tartratic form, the tartratic acid, is a stimulant for the Leydig cells in the testes.
Right.
So, if you want your testes stimulated.
Yes.
We all do.
Who doesn't? Even the women out there do, Steve.
Oh, jeez. Well, see, if you haven't got testes, like women don't have testes, then
I can't believe in this day and age that could be controversial.
I know.
But anyway, go on. No.
Then it won't stimulate testosterone in them, so it's safe for women to have any sort of.
But not really much benefit for women to take the tartrate.
Not testosterone wise. No. The acetyl form is the best form by far.
For both.
It's best absorbed.
And if you're focusing on fat loss, there's all these other ones.
Yep.
Go for the acetyl form.
More absorbed, more around the body, into the brain, everywhere.
Gives you a good brain.
It's good for your brain as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the dopaminergic effects of acetyl-L-Carnitine are terrific.
Yep.
So boost dopamine dramatically.
You said 2 to 2.7 grams.
Yeah. So 2 grams if it's acetyl-L-Carnitine, because it's better absorbed.
Great.
And hasn't got anything added onto it.
So nothing's changed.
Nah.
And so looking for fat loss, definite benefit with helping to oxidize fat in the mitochondria.
Yep.
You get the benefits of the dopaminergic as well too.
Absolutely.
The acetyl form also slightly better absorption as well. So you're on a winner.
You are on a winner, and 2 grams.
2 grams.
And that's what these recent studies are saying. So are many others, by the way.
Yep.
This was just a paper that says the effects of acute and chronic oral intake of acetyl-L-Carnitine and exercise intensity. So it very much also helps.
I want to go take some now.
I am taking some now.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
So anything else, Steve, on acetyl-L-Carnitine?
I mean, we could go on for hours about it, but we've got a heap of other amino acids I want to get to. So that'll
anything else really that you want to get off your chest?
I just think it's so good for your brain.
Yep.
It really stimulates your brain to become more alert.
Yeah.
And that helps your exercise.
Yeah.
Because if you're out there and you're slugging along like I was this morning in the heat, trying to go for a run, I had some of this beforehand, so I was fine.
Just laughing. Steve came back, saw him yesterday. You've been down in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Like, how do you lose weight over Christmas, you bastard?
No, that was crazy.
And you told me that you'd been running.
Yeah, doing more running because
nice weather down in Melbourne.
It is, and you can run for 20 k's.
Yeah,
and no problems at all because the heat's not there. There's no humidity, and so it's like, if everyone in Melbourne gets up so late.
Yeah,
have you noticed that?
Steve-O.
Yes.
Do you like Anchorman?
I love Anchorman.
I dress up as, I don't call them Ron Burgundy. It's what do we call the character I dress up as from time to time?
Isn't it
Mahogany? John Mahogany. But I think, because I just love Will Ferrell. Like, honestly, Will, I know that you're listening. But we're like this.
Yeah.
Step Brothers, one of my all-time favorites.
He just messaged me the other day.
I loved Anchorman. Anchorman 2, not so much, Will, to be honest. But Anchorman was honestly probably right up there in terms of one of my favorite comedies. And there's a lot of ad-lib in there. And one of my absolute favorite scenes is the scene where he's standing there and Brick's walking away and they're all walking away and he's standing there and he's sort of been homeless and he's drinking milk in the middle of the street. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
So that was ad lib. So apparently he went into the store and the director said, "I'll just grab something to drink and we'll drink it in the middle of the street." So he grabbed milk thinking it would be funny. And he's sitting there drinking it and it was take after take after take. It was quite a warm day, quite hot. And he's sitting there and we're talking, several hours into it. And of course, the milk's getting warm.
Yes.
So he's sitting there drinking it and going, he was actually saying to the director and everyone around him, milk was a bad choice. And you know what I think of, Steve, when I see that?
What's that?
I think of you.
Oh, me? Yeah, well,
because
it's true.
Because, hashtag milk is a bad choice. So one of the funny things about, I've got a point to the story.
Okay.
And if you don't know that you're actually being marketed to, is just, is that No Way, which is Body Balance Collagen, is actually really difficult to make taste like a milkshake because it's just not creamy, right? It's actually, and the team do a great job. What it's actually suited to is actually juice flavors.
Yes.
And
it's cordial-like.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So hashtag milk is a bad choice. Go for ATP Science Juicy. So we've got several flavors in the juicy range. So if you're sick and tired of after a workout or on a hot day like it is here in the Southern Hemisphere where it's quite warm at the moment, grab the No Way Juicy and use that instead because literally they're designed to taste more like juices. So beautiful. In the juicy range, we've got there's pink lemonade, there's grape, wild berry, and pineapple, of which personally my favorite is pineapple, but the biggest seller I think is the pink lemonade.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But look, if you're sick and tired of chocolate and vanilla shakes, and you want to try something a bit different, and what's really cool is it stacks really well with other products that you might want to add into it as well too that are more juice based. So, guys, milk is a bad choice. If you over milk and it's hot, and you want to have something where you can throw ice in there, blend it up as a bit of a frappe. A frappe.
Oh, yes.
You can have, your ice crushed up with your and you can drink that and you're getting all of the benefits of your body balance collagen.
Are there any artificial sweeteners?
No.
Artificial colours?
No.
Artificial flavours?
No.
Dairy?
No.
Gluten?
No. Oh, lactose free.
Yeah. It's everything free.
So, guys, give it a try. Shameless plug. But yeah, if you're interested, it's for something new, give No Way Juicy a go.
Enjoy. It's terrible.
All right. So, in terms of next.
All right.
Now, this one.
Yeah, this one.
Again, I'm going to give you my 2 cent layman terms
go for it.
But L-Glutamine typically is maybe not as sexy as it once was, but the thing I like about glutamine is that it's excellent for the gut. I think most people know that. It's the most abundant amino acid in the body. The other thing, am I wrong on that, Steve?
No, it's very good for the gut.
I was going to say,
it increases IgA in the gut, so it's a very good amino acid.
Well, I was about to say, very good for the gut.
Yep.
But it's also the most abundant amino acid, mostly found in skeletal muscle tissue.
Very much so.
Nice that it doesn't have a particularly strong taste. A little, I don't know the best way to, almost like a slightly ammonia sort of a taste, I guess. But not that it is. But like it's, but it's got 2 nitrogen molecules per amino, which is unique to that amino acid. It's the only amino acid that has 2 nitrogen molecules, meaning that you're getting double bang for your buck to help with nitrogen retention, which helps with muscle growth.
Yes.
I don't think there's any, there's no, it was same with the Acetyl-L-Carnitine, not I'm aware of, there's no toxicity levels, so it's safe to take.
Yeah, it's not going to cause any
good
problems.
for recovery, good for your gut, just a very standard, good recovery amino acid.
That's part of the story and a big part of it. These new
that's
studies,
all that I know. And look, I would imagine that most people listening to this who are interested in lean muscle gain and recovery would take glutamine to help with recovery, help with the DOMS, know that it's good for the gut. But because my understanding is that glutamine is prolific in the gut.
Yes.
But the gut will take most of it. Now, my understanding is, and again, this is going off 20-year-old information here, Steve. Right. You're throwing me back to when I used to be at the supplement den and serving customers. And doing, oh, my gosh. And I was buff.
Still are, mate.
Not as much as I should be, mate. Stress does that to you.
Well, glutamine will help with that.
Yeah, absolutely, it will. The gut preferentially will take it ahead of the muscles. And on average, you need it about 5 grams, I think, a day.
Teaspoon.
To sort of look after the gut, and then anything that's left over. So I'd be recommending people would be taking up to about 20 grams a day when they're trying to build muscle tissue.
Oh, absolutely.
And sort of, I'd sort of put that into 2 10-gram doses for a 100-kilo guy. But look, Steve, this is based on innuendo and weird bodybuilder talk. And I mean, this was guys that were experimenting with their bodies. And look, again, 20 years ago, things have changed. So tell me what I don't know.
Well, what you haven't mentioned is that there's this review study was published on how glutamine, it does all that, but how it actually improves fatigue. Oh. So it ameliorates fatigue. There's 55 studies on it, believe it or not, in this review paper.
For fatigue?
For fatigue. I know. I went, I'm going to bring that one in there because, yes, it's great for nitrogen retention. And you got to remember that an amino acid is an amine group, NH2, with an acid, so H plus on there, so NH3 plus. That's an amino acid. That's what it is. Not a mean acid, like some people call it. It's the old gag. But it's got 2 nitrogen, so you're right, it gets greater nitrogen retention. And it also forms glutathione in the body. And and glutathione's a potent antioxidant. It's one of the 3 amino acids that makes glutathione.
Right.
And glutathione protects against, the free oxidative stress that causes fatigue.
Wow. What else is required to make glutathione in the body?
Cysteine and glycine.
Right.
Yeah.
Which again, those amino acids are typically found in your protein powders and in your meats and things like that. High in dairy typically, Steve, and that's obviously for a lot of people that we're talking to now, we're scary dairy, and for the people that are listening to the podcast, and obviously we're very, very pro collagen and specifically a specific peptide chain of collagen as opposed to just the nondescript ones. But that does then cause a problem sometimes with some amino acids, and glutamine being probably one that people could consider to use if they are on a dairy-free diet.
Absolutely. It's very hard. Remember, the glutamic acid and glutamine are the same sorts of things.
Now, my understanding with glutamic acid, which if you look at the profile, for every 4 grams or 4,000 milligrams, the conversion to glutamine in the body is about 4 to 1.
Yep.
So therefore, if you're looking to get, and again, 20 grams is probably overkill, Steve, and let's face it,
They use 5 to 10 grams, these studies.
Well, and that's the thing. Bodybuilders are like, if a little bit's good, double that, and that's where you start, right?
They sneak in with the humans, these people. They really are nuts.
Well, you look at some of the bodybuilders who are huge. I mean, obviously their requirements for nutrients, specifically amino acids, including glutamine, should be higher, but there probably is an apex curve. And too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing. But if you're looking at glutamic acid, so if you're looking at your protein powder, you pull that out. And typically it is quite high. I think it's actually one of the most abundant, specifically in whey proteins as well too, so. Is that you're probably seeing around about 12 there, 12,000 milligrams. That's about 4 grams of glutamine.
Yeah, it is.
Roughly, in conversion.
Yeah. And glutamic acid is mildly stimulatory for the nerves. So that's why another anti-fatigue thing.
Right.
So it's terrific it's great for the gut and the muscles and all that, but I tried to pick something with exercise performance here.
Right.
Slip that in here. And this paper's title, for those who are interested, is glutamine as an anti-fatigue amino acid in sports nutrition.
So obviously fantastic then for people who are endurance-based athletes, football players, basketball players, soccer players. I mean, all those sorts of sports, even cricket players, all that. Might actually find this amino acid to be something that might significantly help, not just with recovery, not just with gut, but actually with performance by delaying fatigue.
Exactly. I always thought glutamine is a post supplement, sort of thing. But the fact that now these papers are coming in there, you can take it as a pre-workout.
Well, nitrogen retention obviously is something where a lot of bodybuilders and a lot of people that are wanting to maintain muscle. So, footballers, for example, who try and put on a size when it's in NFL or rugby or any of that sort of stuff. Even basketballers, they work hard on their body in the off season to build as much muscle as possible. But then the fear is that they're going to burn that off, obviously, because they're going to be in a calorie deficit during intense training and games. So glutamine could be something that could be used, which is not going to cause an issue, taking it before an event or even sipping on it during an event. And this is where I want to talk about pre and intra amino acids being something that can be used to support, lean and maintain the muscle that you've built, but potentially improve performance as well too, Steve.
I know, this is a tricky. I always thought glutamine is post-exercise, but now we know this anti-fatigue thing, which I was sort of new to me, really, how it's great for that, is you can take it before workout too, if you wanted to. I mean, what would be the optimal amount, Steve? I mean, obviously, there's a difference between a 50-kilo girl and a 100-kilo man. I mean, or athlete, doesn't matter whether you're male or female, but typically, is there 1 gram per 10 kilos.
Wow.
So if you're a 50-kilo woman, 5 grams. And if you're a 100-kilo man, 10 grams.
Okay.
That's what all these
studies. Taking it pre or during?
These were post and pre. So the ones on the anti-fatigue one was pre, and the ones for building muscle is post.
Okay.
So you got to remember, if you're having a good sort of even collagen or a whey protein, you're probably going to get enough glutamine out of your post. So just pre, if for optimal thing, just have a teaspoon of it. That's about 5 grams.
Yeah, and look, the thing is as well too, depending on your sport and all the rest of it, which is why we're big advocates of freeform amino acids. Yeah. There are great blends and great products out there. But you can't please all the people all the time. No. So you can get a good base of amino acids, and then you can add these to them as your sport determines. Because the requirements of a power lifter is going to be very different from that of a rugby player.
Correct.
There are some things that are obviously going to overlap. And that's where if you're doing your research and you're looking at the companies and you're looking at pre or intra supporting products, you can start with the base and then add in the products that you want.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why, I love non-stim pre-workouts because if I'm training in the evening, I want to be able to sleep. However, for those times when I'm training in the morning, you know,
it's stimulation.
That's right.
I'm a big fan of, you know, this morning I took the Acetyl-L-Carnitine with stimulants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I won't go into detail, but it's a great one. No artificial sweeteners. And it just helps you burn fat.
Well, and again, without getting too far off track, obviously the artificial sweeteners, and this is something we're banging on about and hopefully we're getting across here, is if you are interested in losing body fat, utilizing synthetic sweeteners does have an insulin response and actually effectively tells the gut to expect those sugars, which can cause a problem overall calorie intake that the brain demands. Whereas the non-nutritive sweeteners, which are better for your gut, like stevia, like thormatin, which we did a podcast on, actually have a net long-term benefit. And I know we're rabbiting on that nature knows best, but honestly, you know, just looking at the calorific, value does not tell all the story. It's about looking after your gut. And again, Steve, this is where we sort of try and put everything together for the natural athlete. It's not just about, you know, being natural. It's actually about being natural with benefit to create performance.
You're absolutely right. And the problem with whey, and one of the big problems is the sweetener that goes great with whey to make it taste great. Sucralose. Yeah. 955.
Yeah.
And it's the enemy of your gut. It's the enemy of your
still think, and again, I know we did a podcast on this. What was the podcast we did on non-nutritive sweeteners? Where we sort of ranked the top 10 from the absolute, what we think was the worst, which we now believe is, and know, based on science, is carcinogenic, which means causing cancer, right through to the best of the natural ones, which is good for your gut.
It's actually good for you.
And actually, can help you. Yeah. And this is the thing, right? Anyway, we're getting off track. So glutamine, if you're an athlete, want to build muscle, specifically want to look after the gut, well tolerated, has the benefits for anti-fatigue as well too, and glutathione, Steve, if we combine those other amino acids, is a powerful antioxidant, doesn't it? Doesn't it significantly improve your recycling of vitamin C, doesn't it?
Yes, very much so.
So,
lipoic acid, lipoic acid, CoQ10, but also it gets rid of heavy metals. So if you want to weird out there,
it binds heavy metals.
Yeah. Glutathione is a great agent for binding with heavy metals. Yeah. Especially sulfur. Like when I was in the lab a billion years ago and we'd spill a mercury thermometer on the ground, we'd go in there and we did. Happened all the time on the bench. You go in there and you get sulfur and you put it on it and the sulfur would bind to the mercury and then you could clean it up and it was a major hassle to store mercury there. The only other safe place was this fume hood and everything. The only other safe place was in your mouth. I know, a little bit strange, but you know, you got these mask on rebreathers and sounded like Darth Vader, and you sulfur it and then you put it in this oil container. It's sink to the bottom, covered in oil, in a fume hood with it constantly on all the time. You know, it's dangerous stuff, mercury.
So that's anything else from glutamine?
No, that's it for glutamine. Really good stuff. Consider that one.
One of my favourite. What we're talking about next is one of my famous, famous and become very popular of late, very polarizing amino acid because of the way that it makes you feel. I've got to say, I freaking hate the way that it makes me feel.
Oh, really?
I really do. I hate it. But you know that it's working, I should say, or at least you know that it's in the supplement, but that's Beta-Alanine. Now, this became... I started selling this probably back in the mid 2000s, maybe late 2000s, and I learned about the H+ ions, how it buffers acid. But Steve, Beta-Alanine, really, what most people were using it for was for performance. So really good for your CrossFitters, really good for your strength-based athletes that had to perform over a longer period of time. Definitely buffered acid. So you are able to maintain muscle contraction for longer before the muscle would go spastic. In other words, it would lose its ability to contract. So great for I mean, CrossFit is a fantastic sport for this product because you needed to be able to continue to lift a lot of over an extended period of time. Footballers would also benefit massively from Beta-Alanine as well too. And gym goers as well too. Obviously, it's just going to help you to get out those few extra reps when you're at fatigue, which is obviously just going to help with really breaking those muscle fibers, the micro tears, really helping you to put that little bit of extra in, so you're getting more out of your workout. There was a big CrossFitter that made this amino acid really popular a few years ago, Matt Matt Fraser.
Oh, yeah.
He was huge. He reckoned this was one of the absolute top amino acids that he recommended. So it became very popular in the CrossFit community. But Steve, I've trampled on that one.
No,
you tell me why people should take and who should take beta-alanine and what we don't know about it.
All right. The first
and how much we should take.
Yeah, how much? All right. Around 3 grams. 3.2 is what a lot of the studies are doing, but 3 grams is the amount you need.
Yeah.
But let's talk about acid and that sort of thing, because you correctly point out it's a great acid buffer.
Yeah.
Now, what an acid is H plus ion. Okay, that's what acid is. So if you remember the term pH, do you think everyone knows what pH or heard of it?
Yeah, I think so.
P means
so
concentration.
You can tell with your water, like you get little sticks and you can go, oh, this is alkaline or this is very acid. So that's telling the pH.
Correct. Ooh. Now, the amount of acid in our body is a pH of 7.35 to 7.45. Now, they're very narrow. Okay, so if we go outside that physiology, we get acidosis or alkalosis. So it depends on which way you go. The more acid something is, the lower the pH. Mm-hmm. Okay, I know it's an inverse relationship. So what our body needs is a pH of 7.4, pretty much. Right. So anything that goes away from that, your body will say, no, too much acid building up. You got to stop what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And when you're at the gym, you know, your acid stops you, the pain, that sort of thing. That lactic acid buildup stops you from overexerting yourself to get acidotic. What beta-alanine does is binds with histidine in the body to form carnosine. Sorry to get nerdy. Carnosine, yep.
Not carnitine,
not carnosine. Carnosine, yeah. Yep. And that buffers, in other words, resists pH change. Mm-hmm. So while your body tries to drop lower pH, get more acidic, it pushes against that for a time, so you can actually do more exercise before you get acidosis in your body. Yep. And you have to blow that off, because when you blow out a lot of CO2 out of your body, when CO2 is in water, it's acidic.
Right.
Have you heard of acid rain?
Yes.
Yeah, that's CO2 going into water and dropping the pH of the water, making the water more acidic.
Right.
So when you breathe heavier, like when you're exercising, you're breathing heavier, getting rid of CO2, that's making you more alkaline.
Yeah.
So you know, the body will resist that. So you can actually do more work, puff less, and get more work done.
Yeah.
You know, like the Matt Frasers of the world who
freaks.
Yeah, they're just exerting themselves to the ends. This will help them go that little bit further before you get acidosis.
So there was a bit of controversy a few years ago around beta-alanine and another product that came out called carnosine, saying, well, okay, if you want beta-alanine, but you don't want the tingles, why don't you just take carnosine? But if I remember correctly, Steve, the science actually proved that taking carnosine was not as beneficial as taking beta-alanine.
Because it gets digested. It's beta-alanine.
You want the chemical reaction to actually happen in the body. As opposed to take the end, because effectively carnosine, from everything that I've looked in the research, has shown that it's ineffective.
It's ineffective because it just gets in the gut and just does that. Beta-alanine is way better.
It's kind of like old school knows best, right? I mean, acetyl-L-Carnitine's been around for 1,000 years, and L-Carnitine, are they still going to be effective? Creatine monohydrate. Do you remember there was all sorts of different creatines? Oh, we are going to talk about creatine. So we'll get into that as well too. But my old school is good.
Yeah,
old school's proven and it works. Back to basics. You know?
I've got this is the paper. It's a systemic review, meta-analysis
of beta-alanine.
Beta-alanine.
Yeah,
and had a significant overall effect on improving performance. So it improves exercise capacity and performance at the same time.
Right.
So you can go faster, further, longer. Yeah. If that makes sense. So, and this is a paper called Beta-Alanine Supplementation.
So anywhere where the muscle is contracting over a long period of time. So that could be cyclists, that could be runners, that could be CrossFitters, that could be rugby players, that could be, anything, surfers. I mean, you think about it. You want to be as fresh as you are, or fresher longer. Yeah. You know what I mean? Oh, we're getting into the 80th minute and people are starting to, if you've got the beta-alanine, you might just be able to perform at that higher level for a period of time before the body starts breaking down. And I shouldn't say everybody, most people would know the feeling of lactic acid burn, especially, you've seen it before in marathons, ultra marathon runners and that, where they remember the person that couldn't cross the line and they got beaten and they, and they were on hands and knees because the muscles get to a point where they go too much acid and everything just shuts down, Steve-O.
And that's the save your life. Yeah. I mean, you don't want acidosis in your body. Very hard to get from exercise.
Is that like rhabdo's the
Rhabdo is the extreme version where the muscles break down, you get cholecystokinases build up.
So, true or false? If you were to take beta-alanine, it could starve off or delay the impact of rhabdo.
Rhabdomyolysis. Absolutely. That's exactly what it does. because it protects your muscles.
If someone got rhabdo, would taking beta-alanine help at that point, or is it too late?
Something else will help that we'll talk about later.
Okay.
We're going to probably number 5 on the list will help with that.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
And there's studies on that too.
So a combination of these things together is going to help you to perform. Help build muscle, maintain muscle, stop muscle tissue breakdown.
Yep.
Help you to perform for longer at a high level.
Correct.
This is the thing I love about this is supplementation 101. This is where I got into the industry, and I have to thank companies, that were doing a lot of the early research back on like EAS and Bill Phillips and those guys there it stands for experimental and applied science, because these guys were at the forefront, at the cutting edge, using themselves as guinea pigs. The science now has absolutely caught up.
Yeah.
And there's apex point. And this is the thing. We're smarter than, if a little bit's good, more is better, because too much of a good thing can have a negative impact. And there's sport-specific reasons why you take certain amino acids. So you've got to take into consideration your weight, your what exercise you're doing, what are you trying to do, and then once you've got an understanding, as I said, you can go out and effectively tailor-make your supplementation for what you want. As I said, I believe that there are some good companies out there producing products that might have a base for you that you can then manipulate with single amino acids to create exactly what it is that you need.
Exactly. Now the things that will work with beta-alanine that are synergistic are what they call cations, or positive minerals,
right?
Like sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. They're good for your muscles and everything else as well, but they also buffer against acid buildup.
So that's found in good electrolytes.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, there's a lot more that meets the eye than, say, a Gatorade versus a specially formulated sports hydration. And I know hydration sounds boring for the most part.
Yeah.
But when your nerdy science brain gets into it, Steve, you can actually create biochemical. Trap is the wrong word because it sounds negative, but you can create biochemical ladders that actually support the recycling of the acid, put it back into the Krebs cycle. So instead of it working against your muscle, you can actually use it to fuel it.
Correct.
And that's super cool.
That's really cool.
And that's smart people, Steve, formulate products that do that.
And you mentioned like minerals, like what we first learned, that if you put a little bit of sodium in water, it's absorbed across your gut better. Okay, a little bit of salt. So everyone was just putting salt in their drinks. And what it does, though, when you get too much salt in your body, it dehydrates the cells.
Right.
So you need potassium and magnesium, which draws the water inside the cells. Yep. And calcium works with muscle contraction. Yep. So that's why you need sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium together in electrolytes.
In the right ratios.
Correct.
And this is where sodium has become a dirty word.
Yeah.
And so I've looked at a lot of companies out there have actually removed sodium or removed it altogether from their formulation because they're afraid about sodium causing hardening of the arteries. Yeah. And so it's like, and this is the problem where you've got perception and marketing that make decisions over actually formulating a product based on science.
Well, you need magnesium aspartate and you need sodium citrate. You need this weird form. It's not. We could do a whole podcast on minerals. I know, but beta-alanine.
They're not sexy, but they freaking should be.
They should be
because all those people that died walking the Kokoda Trail a few years ago. Do you remember when like 3 or 4 people died within a space of 2 weeks?
Yeah,
they were drinking water.
Yeah.
But they had removed all of the electrolytes out of their body. Yeah. One of the worst things that you can drink is distilled water because it's devoid of electrolytes. No minerals in there. Anyway, it's anything else around beta-alanine, Steve? And obviously, alanine is an amino acid. So, where does the beta come from? Where is it found?
Beta is just the bond that the L is bonded to. So it's just there's alpha and beta. It's like beta-carotene. Yep, it's that sort of thing. Right. It's just A-B type.
Is it found in any sorts of foods? Or anything, Steve?
Beta-alanine is found in animal food, so like flesh.
Yep.
It's also found in carnosine. Carnosine with beta-alanine is found together in meats, for example. And the meats have the big 3C in it. Carnitine, creatine, and carnosine. That's right. I knew there's 3 C's.
Say it again. Sorry, creatine.
Creatine.
Carnosine.
And
carnosine.
Yeah.
Carnitine and carnosine.
Carnitine and carnosine. They're the big 3 C's in meats that all can help with performance. Huh. So that's why in the old days people used to eat steaks and all that sort of stuff.
Serge Newbray, do you remember he finished, if you ever watch Pumping Iron.
Oh, yeah.
He finished second, I think, and then...
to Arnold.
Yeah, he finished second to amazing physique.
Yeah.
He was a big proponent of eating steak. And I don't know if they knew for the carnitine reasons, but he used to definitely be a big proponent of that. But again, seafood and a steak does contain a lot of creatine, and it is very beneficial.
It is.
The nice thing is that with isolation, we'll get into that in a minute. We'll get into the creatine in a minute. Anyway,
so much.
Is there anything else on beta-alanine?
No, we better leave that one because we've got a few others to get through.
This is another interesting one. L-Citrulline Malate.
Oh, yeah.
Now, considered to be one of the best pump nitric oxide inducing products, taken over from arginine. When we first started the company way back when, we were absolutely an evangelist not to use arginine and to use citrulline. So I like to say that not one of the pioneers because it's been around for a long time, but I think in terms of advocating why arginine is significantly inferior to citrulline. Yeah. So citrulline helps to produce nitric oxide.
Correct.
Which increases blood flows to working muscle cells.
Absolutely.
Also, and again, Steve, this is where science fact and science fiction, this is where I'm going to get you to come in and separate it.
Sure.
But nitric oxide is incredibly beneficial, to increase oxygen to the working muscle, to support blood flow, which is why you can get really vascular. How that helps to build muscle tissue is it stimulates the satellite cells on the peripheral of the muscle wall. This is where occlusion training, this is where, really hardcore pump can be really beneficial to build more muscle because you're effectively demanding that the muscle become bigger. Problems can occur for people, strength-based athletes like CrossFitters, especially people that are doing a high load of work under volume, because it can create a situation where the blood stagnates, where the blood loses the oxygenation in the blood, and therefore it becomes what they call a debilitating pump. Now, if you're after a pump product, you want citrulline to be in there.
Yeah, of course.
At a high level, and depending on, we'll talk about that. If you want it as a nitric oxide support product where the oxygenation in the blood might be getting low or the blood might be needed to get into that area, you can use it in a smart way to support that, Steve.
Just a few grams. The olden days was more better because you felt...
8 grams, I'm hearing people
8 grams
using.
And 11. I've seen 11.
Wow.
And it just becomes... You just become bloated,
so
basically.
What is the upper threshold in terms of it? Let's say if you're going for a pump product, and there's 1,001 products out there with it in there. What would you say would be the optimal level as far as research to create the maximum pump? And I know there's other things that you can put in with it.
Yeah, I'd say 8 grams a day.
8 grams.
That's all the studies are on 8 grams.
Yep.
But you don't need that much because who wants pump? What they want is performance. Most people.
No, it depends, Steve, who you're talking to. So if you're talking to a bodybuilder who wants to absolutely get it to the point where they can't move their arms anymore, to stimulate as many of the satellite cells around, then you want 8 grams.
8 grams, yeah.
But if you're an athlete who's playing rugby, if you're an athlete who's lifting for strength, so that could be a power lifter or a CrossFitter, then there's an argument to use citrulline, but at a much lower dose.
Much lower dose, yeah. The studies are usually about 8 to 5 grams, and it's very high in things like watermelon in your food and that sort of stuff.
And the white part of the watermelon,
correct?
The
white part, And that's where it was originally it come from. And of course, watermelon's good for you anyway. But certainly 5 to 8 grams a day is a good dose. If you're a bodybuilder going into competition, you may want to have more than 8 grams because you just want to be bloated as hell.
Yeah.
Bloated, but you want your muscles to look fuller. So you maybe take more. It's quite safe, but you will feel like you're quite bloated, which is fine if you...
Will you feel like bloated or pumped?
Pumped, I should say, not bloated in the gut. Arginine will make you bloated in the gut.
Yeah, that's right.
That causes vasodilation.
Whereas citrulline doesn't.
Correct.
So how does citrulline work, Steve?
In the citrulline cycle, there's a citrulline cycle in the body where it turns into arginine in the blood vessels themselves.
Similar to what we were saying before about carnosine and beta-alanine.
Exactly.
Don't take arginine, take citrulline. Don't take carnosine, take
beta-alanine.
Beta-alanine, yeah. So
that's
take
right.
citrulline.
So that's exactly how it works. It gets to the muscles and then works.
Yeah.
Instead of just...
Because the worst thing you can have is all your blood floating around in your gut, in your stomach, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one, you want the blood to be out in the peripherals of the muscle. But yeah. Okay. Anything else in citrulline, Steve?
Well, it does. What we now know is that, and this is a study called The Effects of Citrulline Supplementation on Exercise Performance in Humans, it basically shows it improves performance.
Okay.
So it'll improve your running game, your weightlifting game, whatever exercise they tested. In this case, it was strength. It improves strength.
At what level? At what amount?
5 grams a day was enough.
Wow.
Yeah. So you don't need more than that to improve strength.
Yeah.
If you want to feel pumped, you can take more, but you don't need more than 5 grams a day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, people take a lot of this stuff because that gives them that feeling of pump, and a lot of people like feeling the big pump thing, but you don't need it for performance.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really good one. That was published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research.
So, I mean, am I rude enough to say 8 grams sort of if you want to pump, but 5 grams to support nitric oxide where it doesn't become too over the top?
Correct. Let's say you're going on a date, okay? I know we're married, but let's say we're not.
Does Tony know?
No.
Does Beck know?
There's no cameras around, is there?
We're not dating together, though. I don't want to go on a date with you, Steve. I mean, I like you and everything.
What
but
if I've got a big pump going on?
I definitely don't want to go. No.
All right, let's
we go on a bromance date. I mean, that's fine. All right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's say you were single. Okay, just imaginary.
Yep. I can imagine.
You wanted to impress the girl.
So can Tony.
Yeah.
Actually, I think she'd call it a dream. Actually.
A dream.
Yeah. Anyway, go on.
Then what you could do is you could do a few sessions at the gym and take loads of this stuff, 8 grams to 10 grams of this stuff. Be really pumped, so you'd impress the girl on the date.
Okay. Does it work?
It works quickly, yeah.
Work after the date. I mean, not after the date. I mean, I'm not thinking
when you first meet
something about Mary. I mean, I'm talking about, I mean, does it work in the bedroom?
Yes, it
does.
would. In the bedroom, nitric oxide is released inside the vasculature of the
That's not good. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
You had to say it, didn't you? I know. I know
Yeah.
we're professional, Steve, but I just hate that
I
word.
know, I hate the word
anyway.
too. So all right,
Especially looking you in the eye when we say it, it's just not right.
I'll look into the camera.
Yeah, look at the camera. But okay, but in all seriousness, though, and again, it does actually help with that.
That does, and drugs that help that are designed to stop the breakdown of nitric oxide in the penis,
right,
in the part of the body. Beep. We can say penis.
I know we can. Well, you say it a lot.
Yeah.
But I think too much if you ask me. Yes, I know. I'm not in the mood. I wasn't in that side of the science because I know that we do a lot of deep science, and I literally have to almost do calisthenics to get myself into that side of it.
Oh.
But anyway, that's okay. All right, so that could help with performance there as well too.
It does, yeah. It would help with that because it increases that amount, and the drugs stop the breakdown of it.
Right.
So it helps the performance of that.
Okay.
There we go.
There you go. Oh, we got there in the end.
Yeah,
okay.
Dodge that bullet.
Okay. Now, one of probably the mainstays, and if you say to people amino acids, this is probably one that comes to mind the most. And there's been a bit of controversy around this lately as well too. We're a huge fan of it. We absolutely recommend it, which is branched chain amino acids.
Yeah.
Now, funnily enough, we are obviously a huge proponent of collagen. And body balance, obviously being the absolute king of collagen, is very low in branched chain amino acids in consideration to whey, because it works different on mTOR. And I think we keep saying that because people don't get it.
Yeah,
but
it's got more glycine.
But mTOR is brilliant for building muscle tissue, and branched chains have been long touted as the best way to do that, which we don't disagree, but we also agree that there's other ways that people don't consider. But let's talk about branched chains. Branched chains are great for muscle tissue. They're sparing on muscle tissue, so they can be used to prevent muscle tissue breakdown. Specifically in the branched chains, which is isoleucine, leucine, and valine, is the amino acid leucine. Now, you need them in the 2:1:1 ratio.
Yeah, that's the same.
A lot of people, 4:1:1 and 8:1:1, and it's just like, no, go back to what's found in human tissue and what we require. Leucine is great because it breaks down into KIC, which then can break down into HMB. So by taking
hydroxymethylbutyrate, for those who are
unbelievable studies on cancer patients for maintaining muscle tissue, on burns victims as well too. HMB tastes terrible, but is a great product. And I know why it's not as popular as it used to be. I'm not even sure if it's legal here in Australia anymore. It was not legal, then it became legal, then it might have become non-legal again. But you kind of get it covered.
It should be illegal because of the taste of it.
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah, it's nasty stuff. It tastes like bath salts. It's this really, I call it a high-pitched taste, but it's just got this really chemical taste to it. But brilliant product. But you do get it by taking, maybe not as efficiently, by taking branched-chain amino acids. Steve, do you know the conversion from leucine through to HMB? Do you know what you end up, like glutamic acid, 4 grams gives you 1. Yeah.
I don't know the conversion.
We'll have to look at that. But anyway, you do get it by taking branched chains. So branched chains,
they're great. Now leucine's the king.
Really big for recovery too.
They are, and I've got a study on recovery actually. The way you can measure recovery is 2 ways. There's chemically and there's soreness, muscle soreness. Okay,
right. So DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, and that's an objective measurement. Steve.
It is. There is a scientific measure called creatine kinase, which is an enzyme that is involved in muscle tissue breakdown. Kinase, remember the enzyme, A's means enzyme. Now, what we know is if you take branched-chain amino acid, it reduces CK, which is creatine kinase, 24 hours and 48 hours after exercise. So it dramatically improves muscle recovery.
Okay, so it's helping recovery because when you train in the gym, right? Yep. And don't think of muscle tear as being like a full tear of the muscle. Think micro tears. So if you look at the strands of muscle to get bigger, what happens is when you train, effectively you get micro tears in the fascia, and then what they do is they effectively join back and they swell. You don't. Yeah, they become bigger. The strands become bigger, and they do that through utilizing amino acids as the building blocks of that muscle tissue. Branched-chain amino acids doesn't stop the tearing and make it not sore from that. Yeah. Are you saying that it basically fills in the gaps quicker. So that effectively, if you can imagine the micro tear in the muscle being like tiny little damage, right? The quicker that heals, the less sore that you're going to be.
Yep.
The quicker you can get back into the gym,
and the more you can lift.
Yeah,
because it's stronger again. Yeah, it's a weird process because people say, but why are you damaging your muscles? That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
So as it grows back stronger.
Yeah.
It's like your heart. You're stressing your heart out when you run so you can run further next time.
Yeah. You don't want to lift a weight that snaps your muscle, nor do you want to go for a marathon when you're not up to it. I'm going to get a super healthy heart and do it all in one go.
No. That's that will end up badly.
That doesn't work well.
So you can measure it, and the great studies, and this is done on, and also reduces muscle soreness after 24 hours.
So when is the optimal time? And look, isoleucine veiling, Steve. I mean, we spoke about leucine as being the hero because of its effect on HMB and all that sort of stuff.
But valine increases insulin.
Yeah.
And everyone goes, oh, no. But it's like, no, insulin is a growth hormone in the right amount. As long as
insulin is more anabolic than testosterone.
Absolutely.
And if you're sitting on the couch eating donuts, and we say this all the time, and I know this is a really simple analogy, and you're eating sugar, your body produces insulin. Yeah. Insulin just makes things grow. Now, if you're sitting there, you're not training the muscles, you're eating carbohydrates and fats, then insulin goes, let's create some more fat cells.
Correct.
Let's grow something. Yeah. Whereas if you're training with weights and then you create insulin afterwards, or an insulin response.
With amino acids.
With aminos, which is why the old saying was take creatine, and so it was to get an insulin response with diabetes, like pregnancy diabetes and all the rest of it. Typically, they make you eat 75 grams
of sugar. Yeah, right? You drink glucose and then measure every 15 minutes.
At the IAS, I forget what it was. I think it was like 120 grams of glucose or something that they were using, right? But the old adage that I used to use is basically for your weight, use that amount. So if you're 100 kilos, take 100 grams, which I know is a lot. If you're 50 kilos, take 50 grams of simple sugar post-training to create insulin. Your insulin is the most anabolic hormone that you can create. Now, if you take that straight after a workout, you put amino acids in with it, the insulin goes, well, IGF-1, which is growth factor.
Insulin growth factor 1, yep.
You've got damaged muscle.
Yep.
We've got to replace the glycogen.
Yep.
And the amino acids get a free ride. That's a very simplistic way that I used to sort of talk about it.
That's true, because you don't grow fat cells because you need the glycogen replaced.
That's right, because it's not going. It's like a heat-seeking missile.
Yeah,
it's like if you fire it and the muscles are closed and full and sedentary and there's nothing, it just goes boom, straight into the fat cells. But if the muscles are depleted, they're damaged. The glucose is going in there to replace glycogen, which also goes into the liver.
Yep.
But the amino acids will also then go, the IGF-1, which is like this little chemical that's like goes, let's take these amino acids and whack it into the muscle cell.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens. Because you've got to remember, everyone thinks, carbohydrates are bad and all that sort of thing, and too much of them are. But if your muscles are full and you don't exercise and you're just eating more and more carbohydrates, the sugar can't be stored effectively in the body, turns into fat.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
And this is what I don't understand.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm on a ketogenic-based diet.
Yep.
And I don't want carbohydrates at all. Mm-hmm. If I take branched-chain amino acids, will the valine sort of work as an insulin precursor to help me repair without having to use carbs?
Correct. And you've got to remember
That's
that
cool.
most amino acids, even like alanine, does produce an insulin response.
Yeah.
It's not, and about 50% of the protein you'll eat. That's why the ketogenic diet is not a high protein diet. It's kind of a low to moderate protein diet.
Yes, yeah.
It's a very high fat diet.
Yeah.
Very low carbohydrate diet. But the protein is just like a smallish amount.
Because protein through the liver, a process called glyconeogenesis, can be broken down into blood glucose, which is why on a ketogenic-based diet, you don't want to overeat protein. However, if you're training, Steve, the way I look at it is that you're effectively sacrificing some of the amino acids into the fire, but you're not eating carbohydrates.
Yeah.
But if you're on a ketogenic-based diet or you don't want to eat carbohydrates, how much branched chain amino acids would you take?
During the day?
No. After a workout, if you want to create an insulin,
7 to 10 grams.
Is that enough?
That's absolutely enough. You just want to stimulate chemicals,
right?
Because you got to remember, you're going to be having them, and you're going to be having food. Yeah, and food is full of branched chain amino acids because there's 8 to 10 essential amino acids depending on your biochemistry, and a lot of people are consuming them with your eggs for breakfast and meat from sandwich for lunch and all this. Branched chain amino acids are in all the meats, and so that's anyway. So you're going to be eating a lot.
Explain to me the difference between sport-specific amino acids and the blood amino acid pool, because I get confused.
All right.
I used to be very much sport specific. You've got to use the bracketing technique, which means that before you go and train, you take your amino acids which help with performance. So that might be things like, citrulline and beta-alanine and now creatine, which I always used to have post, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And again, for people that are listening, you know where I'm going. For people that don't, stay tuned because this is kind of cool. And then during your workout, it was always branched chain amino acids and what have you. And now it's like it used to be like HMB. And it was like, well, just take leucine. I was like, well, take all of the branched chain amino acids and make sure you get it on the right ratio, because there are other factors that are going on there and you're still getting all of those things. And then it's like, well, actually, you know what? You need all 8 essential amino acids. So it's gone from HMB to leucine to branched chain amino acids to actually take the full 8.
Yes. And the full 8's better because, your body's going to, you can't make, remember there are essential amino acids, there are essential fatty acids, there are no essential carbohydrates. Your body can make them, but you can't make these essential amino acids. So you need them all there. And if you're breaking your muscle tissue down, there's only one way you're going to get them from is from your food. So supplementing them with it will ensure you're getting adequate essential amino acids while you're breaking down your essential proteins in your body and your muscle. So you need them, and they're very, very good together. Like isoleucine is just, for example, what that does. That blocks serotonin in the brain. It blocks tryptophan. You might think, well, what's the...
We don't want to fall asleep while you're training.
Exactly. You want to be more alert. So that's another good reason to take that amino acid. That's why it's not just leucine you take.
So you could take it before, but and again, Steve, just as a broad strokes, depending on what you're trying to achieve, whether you're a CrossFitter, a power lifter, you're going to the gym, you're playing football, but you could take pre-workout amino acids that are designed to increase blood flow, work on buffering acid and that sort of stuff. During your workout, depending on how long it goes for, you could look at amino acids like branched chain amino acids and your essential amino acids. Probably hydration at that point as well too. Probably good.
It tastes good.
And then post-workout, you want to be looking at your
glutamines,
your glutamine, and your branched chains again, probably,
absolutely,
as well as your full spectrum of amino acids as well. Okay, and depending on whether you eat carbohydrates or not, you could use a high glycemic sugar at that point as well too, or make sure you're getting around about 10 grams of branched chains.
Exactly. That's pretty much the total. And we haven't got to the big one yet, the creatine one. But of those amino acids we've talked about, that's exactly how you take them.
Yeah.
And yes, someone will say, but I take glutamine before exercise and it helps my brain. It does.
Yeah.
And so you can. But this is just rules of thumb what we're talking about here. You don't want to be taking everything all the time.
No, and it depends what you need, what you're trying to achieve. And this is where there's not a one-size-fits-all, but as a general rule, these things, performance aminos at the beginning, support aminos through the middle, and then recovery aminos at the end. And some of them will overlap. Like branched chains obviously are fantastic. So,
and you can take branched chains before exercise. I've done that before because it just suppresses serotonin, so it gives you a bit more, a bit more pep.
Yeah.
So that's fine too. It's non-stimulatory, but it just suppresses the serotonin in your brain.
Anything else on branched chain amino acids?
That's it. It's a huge topic, but this meta-analysis does improve. It reduces muscle soreness and reduces CK levels in the body, which is creatine kinase, which is the enzyme that's breaking them down. So it definitely works to repair muscles.
Yeah. And I think this is pretty much gold standard on aminos. Most people understand.
And try and take them with essential aminos.
Yeah, they work better taking them as a 8 broad spectrum. All right, now the granddaddy.
It's funny to say that because this was a 42-page scientific paper on creatine. Look at all the studies. I mean, I won't. People aren't watching. It just goes on and on
Steve,
forever.
Arguably in the last probably 30 years, probably the most studied amino acid.
Yep.
Like creatine, and I have to think Dr. Richard Kreider, who is the grandfather of the creatine research
he
world.
Co-wrote this paper.
If you're going to read anything on creatine, Dr. Richard Kreider is probably the man. We've had the fortunate
met him.
Privileged to meet him. He is a super nice guy. He's come out and he's done some at the health summit that we did a couple of years ago before COVID.
Big brain.
It's just such a nice guy, smart guy.
Yeah.
Creatine is, I think most people now know, whether performance or strength, muscle gain, creatine is conditionally essential.
Yeah.
It is an awesome supplement. Bang for your buck.
Yeah.
I think probably, arguably, in terms of the Hall of Fame, number one.
Yeah, it's number one of these. I mean, if you're going to take one of these things we're talking about today, this is the one to take.
Yeah.
But, there are products out there with a number of them in together, so look for those.
Yep.
But if you want to pick one and you twist my arm, this will be the one.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, Steve, and I'll give you my synopsis again in terms of what I've learned now. Okay, what I used to believe is that you take creatine post-workout with your glucose formula and some protein to help with recovery. It stores in the muscle. It helps with adenosine triphosphate. It's a funny thing. ATP science and the ATP project is a play on the words because we love creatine so much. Yeah. We stand for Advanced Technology and Pharmacology. That's what ATP science and ATP project stands for. But ATP in the body is a group of 3 phosphate molecules.
Yep.
That is the energy within the currency within the cell. When it's under pressure to perform, it's like an explosion. That triphosphate goes down to a diphosphate. Yep. My understanding, Stephen, some of these things probably sound like baby talk to you, but basically what it means is that what creatine monohydrate, and there are different types of creatines, which we'll talk about in a moment, what it does is it helps to put more adenosine triphosphate inside the muscle, but it also helps with the reattachment of that phosphate back into the muscle so that you're ready to lift heavier sooner.
Yes. And even during your, instead of doing 10 reps, you can do 12.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. It works quickly.
You're looking at more hydration inside the muscle because creatine holds more water effectively inside the muscle. So hydration is really important. Drinking alcohol or drinking coffee or caffeine will not ruin it. And it's funny because I asked Richard Kreider that directly. He said the initial studies that they did, they actually used espresso coffee. It's espresso coffee. Tony hates it when I call it espresso. Espresso coffee. With it. And no, he said that the fallacy was, don't take any caffeine, you'll ruin it. Yeah. You can't have a single sip of alcohol or it'll be gone. It'll be destroyed. No, that's not true. But you do want to stay hydrated. It will compete with water. It is safe for the kidneys. People talk about, if you take creatine, you destroy his kidneys with creatine. It cannot be stored in water. So any drinks that you see that are RTDs and all the rest of it with creatine monohydrate, there's a lot. I can't believe it. They're making a comeback. Do not believe it. You cannot put them into water because after a few hours, creatine turns into creatinine, which is toxic and will have a negative impact on the kidneys. Absolutely. We are very, very selective in the creatine that we recommend and use. We only recommend creatines that we have studied. The one to be safe wherever you're listening, if you is CreaPure, which is a German engineered creatine, which has been proven consistently to be the purest, 99.9% pure, with virtually non-detectable levels of Creatinine. Creatinine will make you go to small doses will make you go to the toilet, will make you feel sick and bloated in the guts, right up to making you feel very, very ill and even damaging your kidneys.
And if you go to the doctors and get a blood test for your kidneys, they will measure that chemical.
And they'll freak out.
Yeah.
But when you're taking lots of protein and creatine, you've got elevated liver enzymes in creatine. That's natural. It's at a threshold, right? But yes, creatine is, so for any of your mums out there and your son comes home and goes, or your daughter comes home and goes, I want to use creatine and all the rest of it. So long as they're over the age of 15, it's safe and effective. The nice thing is as well too, some of the research that we've found is this old adage of 1 gram of creatine for every 10 kilos of body weight is not required. And the loading technique, Steve, when we first started, and I've told the story a million times, so I'll brush over it real quick, but I bought a Masashi creatine in a chemist.
How much did that cost?
$160 for 300 grams. It wasn't even micronized, right? But this was the cutting edge back then. So very quickly it came to a loading phase, which I'm sure was brought about by the companies to sell more creatine, where guys were taking upwards of 30 grams of creatine a day, and loading it in for 5 to 7 days, and then staying on a maintenance dose of no less than 10. What we understand now is that for creatine serum concentrations, that you only need a very small amount, Steve.
3 to 5 grams.
3 to 5 grams an hour before training. That shows to have a sport-specific effect, which I never believed that did, meaning that you can take it and you'll get a benefit. 60 minutes, so 3 to 5 grams. And obviously, most people, if you're bigger, go to 5 grams. 1 hour before training.
That's all you need.
Gives you the apex, the pinnacle point, the best concentration of adenosine triphosphate in the muscle cell to help with growth.
Absolutely.
So you don't need to load it.
No.
You can take it after if you want, but the best time to take it is actually in your pre-workout 1 hour before training.
You get more bang for your buck that way, and it makes sense. And you don't need to take more than 3 to 5 grams. It's funny because when I was looking through this paper and I was looking at all the studies and from the 90s, they go back to you'll see this. There's a 2000 paper. Look at the dose they're giving: 20 grams for 7 days. Blah, blah. And then it's dropped to 15, and then it drops down, and later it goes on less, and it still works. So it's
like everything else. Like people go, a little bit's good, lots more. Typically in meat, I think in 100 grams of steak, I think you're getting about 2 to 3 grams of creatine.
About 2 to 3 grams.
I think it's not particularly a lot. So this is the thing: a little dab will do you. But small amount before you train. And seriously, in terms of all of the supplements that we've mentioned, in terms of cost for benefit ratio, man, taking 5 grams of creatine, an hour before you train, you sense for probably some of the best results you're ever going to get.
And it's great for your brain too. There's types of creatine which is beyond the scope what we're talking about. That it's very good for Alzheimer's disease.
Well, let me just say this, and I'll clear up the confusion. Creatine came out, and like anything, you get your snake oil merchants coming out. There was creatine ethyl esters, and there was creatine phosphates, and there's not. Just trust that creatine monohydrate is 100% the most effective, the best studied, and fortunately one of the most cost effective.
It is. I mean,
it is the best.
This review paper has 180 scientific papers, and it's about 40 pages.
And what is the crux of that study, Steve?
It basically says if you take 5 grams an hour before you exercise, that's the best bang for your buck.
There you go. So Steve just saved you how many pages?
42.
42 pages of scientific references. And all these studies
where they took 20 grams loading doses didn't make any difference. It just needed 5 grams. And that's what Richard Kreider was always saying, and he's sort of like the go-to guy for this sort of thing. So it works well with leucine and HMB. If you want to take it with that too, it's fine.
No, and the crux of it, Steve, helps you lift more. And increases strength.
And it's good for your brain, gives you clarity, gives you more motivation to exercise. So you'll end up
I've never thought of creatine as taking it for motivation, Steve. I've always looked at it for strength. And so typically when you're working out, if you're doing a heavy bench press or a squat or what have you, for those diphosphates to recycle back to triphosphates, my understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 3 minutes. It takes about 3 minutes to get back to, and let's say if you start at 100%, train, and after you've done your warm-ups, you do a really heavy squat, right? Like where you're flogging it like a 6 to 8 rep range, and every muscle fiber is cranking, right? the best recovery that you can do is wait for 3 minutes. And that's waiting for those diphosphates to come. But you'll go from 100% and you might drop down to 96%, 98, and then you drop. And at a point, you get overwhelmed, even if you're taking supplements and all the rest of it. But the idea is to stay as high as possible with as much adenosine triphosphate, as much buffering the acid as long as possible, keeping the muscle contraction as high as possible, the hydration, recycling the acids that you're creating as long as possible, so you can lift as much for as long as you can without getting to a point where you're prematurely fatigued.
That's exactly right.
So this is why I love the science. This is why I love amino acids. This is why I love this whole industry. And this is what really got me into it, was actually the science of performance around amino acids. I love it.
I love it. I mean, imagine if you walked in the gym and you've got, about 3 grams of this, you've got, say, a couple of grams of Beta-Alanine and 3 or 4 grams of L-Citrulline. I mean, what a great way to start your workout. Forget everything else. If you just took those 3 things, you'd be kicking ass.
And you had your hydration as well too. One of the things I was going to say though, Steve, is that when you take creatine as well too, if you're not and you've got inadequate amounts of creatine, the recovery in that 3 minutes is not going to be as high.
That's right.
And also you're going to recover slightly faster. Do you know scientifically, because a lot of people go, I train and I wait 160 seconds between workouts, right? Now, that's great if you're keeping your heart rate high to obviously burn body fat. But do you know much about that, Steve, in terms of the recovery time?
There's whole schools of thought around this. And the longer you recover, basically, the more exercise you can get out in the gym. And that seems to be the key.
But what about the rest between sets? Because I understand, obviously, with
the longer the better.
Right.
But I mean,
how long do you want to? But then you're competing also against your hormone drop as well too.
Yes.
Now, this is something interesting as well too. That Dorian Yates was a really big fan of. The Bulgarians were very. They used to set their watches to, I think it was like start off at 30 minutes. Now, high intensity training, so you're lifting heavy. Like do your warm ups. Don't count that as part of it. Warm up, get it going. When you lift, the muscles all warmed, the joints all warmed, everything's ready to go. I think they used to stop them after about 30 minutes. Now, I think Dorian worked out to about 45 minutes, and he said the return on investment on your body after that period of time dropped, because you've got sex-binding hormone globulin, which rises significantly after that point, correct?
Yeah, it does.
So diminishing returns after 45 minutes.
You do. You've got to. I think 45 minutes is a great way, because at least then if you're not a great gym goer, like I go to the gym, and I go most days.
Yeah, you can tell, Steve. Look at you.
Looking rippling. But the thing is that if you're there for 45 minutes, you've got a goal, and you can go, right, I'm just going to smash it for 45 minutes. I think that's a great way to exercise.
Well, it's nice. I mean, and especially for your more of your beginners and your intermediates, you don't need to be in the gym for 2 hours. But also, if you're not chemically enhanced, and again, even if you are, there seems, I mean, Dorian Yates obviously was. You still got growth hormone. You still got recovery and fatigue, central nervous system stimulation. There's a lot of things to it other than just testosterone, which hopefully people are starting to, I mean, don't get me wrong, testosterone is incredibly important. But, and this is the balancing between what you do in the gym and working out. The rep range that we know for maximum growth hypertrophy is 8 to 12 reps. We know that 3 minutes between working sets is great. I theorize, and I love this, and this is part of the theory craft. And look, we've got personal trainers and people that have studied exercise physiology and all the rest of it. I love hearing from these people, and there's not one right way. But I always like to try and get that min-max, that optimal level. But lifting 8 to 12 where you're failing at that rep, and look, sometimes you can go low to build strength, that's for sure, because my son's doing tricep push-ups at the moment. And we went down to the park and I was doing them. And he goes, oh, Dad, you're really strong. And I'm like, no, mate, I'm not. But I said, when I was your age and I went to the gym, when I was 15, 16, started going to the gym, I used to jump up onto the dip machine and I could only lower myself down. I couldn't push myself up. And I would do that. And I did that and came back the next time. And then all of a sudden I got one. And then I told him, mate, in the end, Clayton, I was hanging 30 kilos of weight around a weight belt and doing those for reps. So this is the thing, right? If you can only do 1 or 2 reps to start with, that's building strength, great. But when you get to the hypertrophy, it's 8 to 12, and you need around about 3 minutes recovery time. Steve, I'd like to do a look into this in terms of creatine, if that could speed that up to 2 minutes, what the optimal level is. Because if you're sitting there for 5 minutes, but you're actually ready to go after 3, then you don't want to, you're wasting time. If you're resting for a minute and a half, but you actually need another 30 seconds to a minute to get the maximum ATP. Then you're cutting yourself short because you're going to fail. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. You've got to find the optimal time and just chemically.
So the theory crafters, and again, we should go back and look at this. If you're using all of these amino acids, and hopefully, guys, this is giving you food for thought in terms of when to use amino acids, what you're trying to achieve. If you're building muscle, if you want more strength, if you're a football player and you want to stop muscle tissue breakdown, and all the rest of it. But for lifting weights in the gym, we reckon the 8 to 12 rep range. Go for failure on that rep range. Maybe go 12, 10, 8. Keep a 3-minute recovery time. Make sure you're using creatine before you work out as an absolute minimum. Absolutely. Consider some of those other amino acid timings that we've spoken about, and keep your workout to working workout. So not your warm up and all the rest of it, but your working workout to 45 minutes. And I'd love to hear from people and see how you go if that improves your overall.
I'd love to hear from people because I reckon there'll be different.
And there's always schools of thoughts. I mean, Steve, I'm not a personal trainer. This is just theory craft. And this is the thing I love about PTs. And this is why if you're listening to this, go get a PT. Because PTs are going to be able to give you feedback on your form. They're going to help you with your exercise. They're going to keep you accountable and motivated. And they're going to be able to give you the advice to actually keep you going. And they've got real world experience. This is theory craft. This is anecdotal. They're the professors. They're the ones. I reckon it would
be great to hear from a personal trainer on that one too, because they'll have the experience. Because they see people every day. Multiple people. Be interesting. But the creatine is you have to.
That's the Godfather. It's the you have to.
Don't even see me unless you're taking it. It's pretty much.
Look at you.
Don't even want to
look at you. We're taking creatine. And it's safe. And so please don't. It's safe and it's effective and stay hydrated. And wow.
So that's that. 6 of them.
Well, that's that then.
That's all done.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right.
Hey, that was a fantastic podcast, if I do say so myself. We talked about 6 proteins and amino acids there, which are quite, and you might be thinking, oh, what is all that information to? I'm just going to summarize it now and tell you when and approximately how much you can take of each of these amino acids. Now, there's 3 aspects to this. Firstly, this is what you take before you go to the gym, what you can take during the gym workout or exercise, and the 5th one is what you can take after the workout. Now, this is not set in stone. You can change this around a bit, but this is what I would do. The first thing I would do is before your workout, you want to take 4 of these supplements. Now, you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, as many as you want for your needs. For example, I'd take 2 grams of acetyl-L-Carnitine because I want to burn fat during this exercise. Also, acetyl-L-Carnitine is good for your brain. It peps you up a bit. I'd also take Beta-Alanine about 30 minutes before the exercise. Now, Beta-Alanine is that stuff that buffers acid. So I don't want too much acid building up because then I can push out that extra rep. Now, speaking of extra reps, we want to be able to get the power to the muscles. So this is where creatine monohydrate of about 3 to 5 grams before your workout is a great way to get more power going. The other one I'd suggest you take is L-Citrulline. You need about 3 to 6 grams of that. And that boosts nitric oxide, which gives you blood flow to your muscles so you can work out a lot harder. Okay, so during the workout, what you can take then is things like branched-chain amino acids. Now, you can take them before or after these ones, but I like taking them during it. Now, the reason being is because you take branched-chain amino acids and it suppresses serotonin in your brain. You might think, oh, why would I want to do that? Well, you don't want serotonin in your brain when you're working out. You want to be really alert and active and not relaxed at all. So it's a very good way for doing that. It also starts to stimulate more muscle growth, increases mTOR, which is that muscle growing stuff. So it really is for boosting your muscles. Now, after you exercise, you're depleted, so you can have a protein supplement. And one of the most important amino acids we talked about was L-Glutamine, and that's what you can take after you work out. Now, it's very high in collagen and whey proteins. So if you're having a fair bit of that, you don't need to worry about it. But certainly you can augment those protein supplements with L-Glutamine. So of those 6 amino acids you take before you exercise, the branched chains during, and the L-Glutamine afterwards.
So, before we get there though, we must be remiss, mate. We've got to talk about Australian slang.
I know.
It's funny, like it really is quite its own Australian language. Mate, there's a few, but the one that we've gone for today is agro.
Agro. I mean, I didn't know that. Like when we were talking about before, I didn't know that was an Australian thing. I just thought it was everywhere.
No, it's an Australian word, aggro. So it means obviously aggressive.
Yes.
But for the Australian, that were growing up in the 80s and 90s, aggro also was an incredibly awesome puppet. Australians answer to Elmo.
Exactly.
Do yourself a favour if you're listening in the States or over in the UK, look up aggro and Celian.
Oh yes,
what was
that was funny.
Oh
wasn't
my
it?
Lord! I mean, seriously, for children's program, the innuendo, double entendres. Oh my Lord!
And it was Jamie Dunn, was it?
Yes, Jamie Dunn.
I should have looked that up. Yeah.
He's a bloody funny bastard. He really is.
He's still going, is he? Is he in radio?
I think he is. He was
okay.
for a long time there on a popular radio station. But yeah. Anyway, so Australians answer to Elmo. It's like this cute little red puppet, and then we had this dirty dumpster, kind of a cross between Oscar the Grouch and a toilet brush, I think is the
toilet brush,
yeah. Because I think that's what he was, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was an ugly-looking puppet.
Yeah.
And he was always, I remember he got eaten by a dog once. Remember that one?
Right, yeah.
And, but he was always, making terrible.
Oh my gosh, the jokes, yeah.
Imagine these days, cancelled.
Straight away cancelled. But anyway, aggro. So basically means to get aggressive.
Yes.
Mate, don't get aggro.
Yeah.
It's like,
Even in sporting, show a bit of aggro.
Yeah.
That's a pretty common saying, I would have thought in Australia.
Yeah.
Show a bit of aggro, get in there, get amongst it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, that's Australian word for the day. So just helping you Americans and people from all over the world to be able to speak Australian when you come out here. So.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Here's some FAQs. Here's some that was prepared earlier. All right, okay, Sivo.
Yes.
Which is better for gaining muscle? And I want yes, no. I want like short answers, right? What is better for gaining muscle and recovery, L-Glutamine or creatine?
L-Glutamine for recovery, creatine for creating muscle.
Oh, well, okay. Can these amino acids be added to other pre-workout products? Do you need to check labels to ensure there's no double up of ingredients?
Yes, check labels. Yes, they can be combined.
Yep. And none of these things have got what you consider to be toxic levels.
No.
The worst thing that's going to be happening is you're going to waste your money. Yeah. But that's so don't freak out.
Nah, they're pretty safe.
Yes,
you'll get a lot of tingling from Beta-Alanine if you take more than 3 grams of it.
Yeah. Can you mix these with water, liquid the night before, or do they go bad and degrade? How long would you take them to break down in water, if at all? Now, we've already mentioned creatine. What about the other ones? We know that creatine is how long, Steve, before it breaks down?
Oh, like hours, like 2 or 3 hours before it starts breaking down. That's
so fresh is best on creatine 100%. What about the other ones?
The other ones are relatively stable.
Okay.
Yeah, they're relatively stable.
Because you see a lot of RTDs and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's fine. Yep, okay. But the no-no is creatine.
Yep.
Do you need to take carnitine on an empty stomach for it to work?
It'll work better on an empty stomach. You don't need to.
Okay.
You can still have it, after work when you got some food floating around your system.
What are the tingles from beta-alanine?
Oh, yeah.
What are they?
They're just...
Because people used to say it was a histidine reaction, but it's not.
No, it's not. Not a histamine or histidine.
Histamine reaction, sorry.
Is the chemical that binds with beta-alanine.
Sorry, it was histamine, sorry.
Histamine, yeah. No, it's not histamine, no.
Yeah. What is it?
It's just stimulation of the nociceptors or the nerve receptors. Nociceptors are nerve receptors. So that's it. It's harmless.
And why is it that some people get it on the face, other people get it on the back of the neck?
Depending on where they're more sensitive. Where there's more nociceptors on them. Yeah.
What is the importance of timing function of branched chain amino acids intra-workout? Well, I think we covered that.
We did cover that one.
What is the relevance of specific pathways to glutamine for muscle recovery? Is there any science behind this?
Nitrogen levels.
Yep. When glutamine is used for glyconeogenesis, is it mostly depleted from the bloodstream, and at what time frame may it be depleted from muscle?
Well, it's depleted from the muscle as soon as you start to exercise. Yeah. The nitrogen is liberated from there. So it happens very, very quickly.
Which is why you can sort of overcome that by an intra-workout.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And in fact, we'll take it from that instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Which should mean that you should actually get better recovery.
Yeah.
More muscle.
You can take it during your workout and afterwards as well.
Acetyl-Carnitine, what percentage would likely promote...
Acetylcholine, yeah.
Yeah, acetylcholine. Therefore, energy focus, actual assistance for fat metabolism, transportation, and how does this affect you when you take it?
Well, it's not about percentages, about getting into the body will take it where it's needed to. So if you're exercising, it will go to the muscles because that's where it's being utilised for fat transportation. Yeah. But if you're not, it will go to the brain a lot. A lot of it, more of it will go to the brain, and it'll increase acetylcholine and all those sorts of things in the brain with the acetyl group. So it's specific.
short and sweet, Steve.
I know,
and that's how I like to talk about my wife, Tony. But I think I think that was good.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple of FAQs. So thank you guys for sending in the FAQs. We love this segment. And please keep your questions coming. We want to hear from you. And by the way, if you're listening on YouTube, and thank you for the YouTube, watchers, we appreciate you. Have to look at Steve. But if you can hit the like button and the subscribe and turn on notifications, that would be much appreciated. All right. So here we go. Question number 1. Hola, love your work. Only podcast that actually keeps my attention. Here's my question. I'm, as you say, the average Joe six-pack. I try and stay consistent in the gym, but getting older and now with a toddler, I'm tired. So tired. I understand. I've been using one of our pre-workouts for a while, which helps. But what about during a workout, especially during heavy weights? And while I've got you, ass to grass necessary. So in other words, when you're doing squats, do I need to go my ass all the way to the floor?
All right.
I've never been able to do it. Tight hips, stuffed knee. Am I missing out on all the gains, or is parallel good enough? I love this question.
Yeah, I do too.
Everybody's hips are different. Biomechanically, we're actually all different.
Yep.
I've got a bad knee now as well too. I can go past parallel, but it's comfortable. Now, I will say this because I am qualified to say this because we're not talking about nutrition.
Yeah.
Please, 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 please. Everybody is different. Go and see a personal trainer. I know that's probably you want, The rest of what I'm about to say is for information purposes and something for you to check out. Because we're all different, it's really important that you understand your range of motion and where it feels comfortable to work out on. Never put yourself in a situation or a position where it feels uncomfortable or unsafe or unstable. Yeah. And I know that the PTs, when you go and talk to them, they're going to back you up on that. Yeah. I would highly recommend, even if you don't want to sign up for a PT ongoing, like Jake is a good friend of mine, massage therapist. Tony's been taking my boy to go and see him to help with what exercises to do based on what the goals are, helping to show the exercise, make sure you've got the right form, and then that's it. So PTs don't feel like you have to be married to a PT. You can have a good time with the PT. You can, I wish there was a tender thing for PT. No, I'm kidding. But you can. I
was thinking too.
But you don't. And a PT will not be offended. Oh no, you've got to sign up for a 12 package. No, go and see your PT and actually sit down with them and say, look, can you help me with my range of motion? Firstly, make sure you're getting a good PT. And ask them for range of motion and what's right for you. I 100% believe in the quality of a good PT, and I'm not saying that to pass the buck, but you need someone who's qualified to be able to help you with that. But look, in my lay opinion, for information purposes only, you do not need to go ass to the ground.
Yeah.
Steve-O, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to quote Bill Campbell. I follow him on Instagram.
Bill Campbell, by the way, have a look at Bill Campbell. He is an absolute genius and probably considered to be a guru of exercise.
They tested this exact question with the squats.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and they found that the quad size was the same, and the hamstring size was the same, but the glute, the butt, was 2% growth with partial squats and 7% growth with full squats.
Right.
So if you want your ass to grow, you've got to go deeper.
Yep.
But otherwise, it still works on your legs.
So one of the things that I'll say about booty burn, as they like to call it, and I've noticed as well, so I'm training at Anytime Fitness at the moment. Yeah. They've got the booty rack. They've actually got a machine now. So I look at it this way, is that I can't go past parallel now. In fact, I'm probably going to be doing probably a parallel squat with my knee. I've backed off the weight a lot.
Same here.
Better to squat than not, for sure. But if booty is what you're interested in with the ass to the grass comment, which I understand, and I see some people doing it, and they're like, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's like, no, if you're comfortable doing it and your biomechanics allow you to do it, do it. Go do the booty machine. Yes. I know that sounds funny. Lunges are also fantastic for booty as well, if you want to bring in the glute. I have the opposite problem. I train legs and all that grows is my ass. I'm serious. I could never get my hamstrings to grow by doing squat. They just wouldn't. Whereas my glutes take over.
My glutes are shit.
Are they?
Let's be honest.
I could crack walnuts, Steve. In fact, I'm very popular at Christmas. Oh, you need that macadamia cracked? Yeah. No, but seriously, my ass is just two things grew really, really big on me. Yeah. And one of them was my glute.
Wow. I just seem to have stronger abs than other people. I don't know. On the ab machine, I'm always putting the weights up. For the squat machine, I'm putting it down. And it's sort of like, why am I stronger at this than other? And in chest, I'm shit. Everywhere else, I'm shit. Ab machine, it goes right up.
I can't deadlift for nuts. I cannot. I can't deadlift. I mean, maybe being tall, I'll use that as an excuse. Chest, I'm not particularly. Legs, I'm like an ant. Literally, I don't have particularly big pins, but I can lift, and especially glutes.
Now they also asked about what during a workout would be great to take. Essential amino acids, just to keep it simple. During a workout. I mean, we talked about it a lot today. But the branched chains.
What
are
happens
essentials.
if you're focused on fat loss, though, Steve? I mean, because will that slow down? I mean, if you're training weights, and again, depending on the sort of workout that you're doing, this is the whole thing around rest time too. Shorter rest time means you're trying to get the heart rate up, which is effectively you're doing resistance training to tone. You're building muscle, right? Tone, but to try and strip down fat. I always liken it this way: if you're lifting, lift to build muscle, and then do your cardio, to burn fat. And you can manipulate that through your diet and nutrition timing. And that's just me. And look, I don't have all the answers, and this is just, but
They're already taking acetyl-L-Carnitine.
Pre-training.
Yep. So we don't have to worry about that. So they're already burning fat. So I just think during the workout they can have the branched chain / essential amino acids. Remember, branched chains are essential amino acids. So when I say essential amino acids, I mean the branched chains.
And you don't feel that taking branched chain amino acids, Steve, if it is going to create an insulin response, that it's not going to slow down fat loss?
Not enough. Okay. It's only 2 grams of. Okay. You don't take too much of the isoleucine. Okay. That'd be fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that will definitely help with recovery.
Oh yeah.
So if that's the problem, and look, at the end of the day, the more muscle that you have, the more mitochondria you have. The more mitochondria that you have, the more energy that you burn.
And they say they've got kids, haven't they?
I'm sorry. I've got 2 of those little things myself as well.
Little things?
Oh. No, look, little things. He grew a centimetre from December to January.
How tall is he now?
6'4". Oh, geez. 6'4". 6'4".
Wow.
Yeah, he's going to be. We reckon he's going to be 6'5" by mid-year, and we reckon he'll be a 6'6" by this time next year. Maybe taller, maybe 6'7".
Around here,
we projected that he'd be 6'7" by the end of 2023, and he's probably going to be 6'6".
Oh my God.
At 15.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say is that please go talk to your personal trainer. You do not need to go arch to the grass. If it is about booty, as just Steve said with Bill Campbell's research, that's great. Hamstrings, quads, great to parallel or where it's comfortable. But maybe talk to a personal trainer. If you can't go arch to the grass and it makes you feel uncomfortable, and again, that's a really, really good indicator to stop. Then maybe have a look at the booty machine. You know, the one where you sort of...
I've seen them.
You don't look at any guys or girls when they're doing it.
No.
It's like they're like... thrusting. It's like
Beck was doing it the other day in the gym when I saw her there, and I was.
And you have guys like just going, you finished. Oh, you finished with that.
Me doing that.
Oh, Steve. Steve.
I'm allowed to do it for my wife.
How do you spot people when they're doing that one? Let me.
Can we ask Jake something like that? Because that's I don't know.
Jake, can you? Yeah, I'm gonna get on there. I'm gonna go and go. Jake, can you spot me?
Yes.
I don't actually need any help in that area, Steve. I've got very good thrusts, but don't take that out. But anyway, I was going to say, in terms of, it's funny. It's funny.
The next question.
All right, let's go on to the next question. All right. Okay, I was wondering, is there any way that you can get rid of stretch marks? I've had a baby recently, and it's left me with so many stretch marks, which are still quite red, and making my skin look saggy. I was just wondering, is there any way to lessen the appearance of them and to tighten the skin?
Look, vitamin E cream is a classic one for that. But also, if you take a type of collagen called Verisol, that will help with the connective tissue of the skin.
Right.
And if you want to plump the skin up and make it look better, hyaluronic acid, orally, about 120 milligrams plus of that. And astaxanthin is a great carotenoid, which is great for the skin as well.
Yep.
So those 3 things with the vitamin E cream are very, very good.
Look, we're going to send you both out some products as well too, Steve. Okay. So we can send out some things there.
Yes.
So please, if you can... email us in at info@atpscience.com and say, hey, Jeff and Steve read out my question on the podcast. This is my question. Here's my name. Or if you want to get in contact with us through our live chat function on our website, we'd be absolutely happy to look after you with a little gift just to say thank you so much for writing in. I will say this as well too, for my understanding with regards to stretch marks. This is not advice, just general information. Is that it is effectively, Steve, where the skin has stretched rapidly, which has created almost like
Micro tears,
like scarring, really.
Pretty much.
And typically what happens, depending on whether you've got keloidal type scarring, and some people is worse than others, is that the redness will normally fade, which makes them way less visible. Yeah. So, Steve, how do you get them to get rid of that redness? And it's a time thing as well too, right? It's just going to take a little bit of time.
The vitamin E is good for that because it's anti-inflammatory as well as being a potent antioxidant. Right. And you can put whoppingly high concentrations on there. Even vitamin A cream is very good too.
So you can go and get the vitamin E with the IU. What is it?
Yeah, IU. International
Is
units.
there any 5,000? Does it matter?
The stronger the better.
The stronger the better.
Yeah.
You can get those little capsules and just just prick them with like a pin or something, and then just squeeze it straight onto the.
That's good.
And then massage it in. I think massage would probably help as well too, Steve, just to get the circulation going.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's something else as well too. I've been meaning to ask you. What about the little, the diamond rollers that girls sometimes use on their face, Steve?
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen them. I don't know.
I just wonder if that would help with to break down the scar tissue. Okay, I had really bad skin cancer and I treated myself back in 2016 and I had all sorts of really bumpy, lumpy things as the collagen and everything knit back. I went and got needling. Like a microdermabrasion. Yeah. And what that helped to do is it helped to break up the scar tissue and increase healing, collagen build, and blood flow.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not suggesting that you but could something like that be a consideration if you've got particularly red, angry-looking sort
Very
of
much so.
scars?
Microdermabrasion is terrific, and photodynamic therapy if you want to take it to the next level.
Yeah, and your father-in-law obviously works in this area. Yeah. So depending on how much it's bothering you, look, one of the things I'll always say is that don't accept things as they are. Until you've tried and you've researched everything. I mean, sometimes you do have to accept and go, okay, but put it this way, don't lie down without a fight. Exactly. Go and have a look at it. And there's more ways to skin a cat. So all those things that Steve mentioned, maybe consider looking at some of those other things as well too. If it's only brand new, give it a bit of time because one of the athletes I used to work with had really loose skin and a lot of stretch marks after she had a baby. And I saw a photo of her the other day and she's looking absolutely fabulous. Not that she didn't when she had them, right? I mean, this is part of life. So the good news is if it's only new and recent, it's probably going to improve significantly by taking some of these things. It could certainly help. So
terrific. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
That's a good one.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. That's the end of the podcast. Look, we're going to be back next with some more. I got a lot out of this, Steve. I actually really enjoyed this one. It was a good one.
Yeah, it's like I thought, we've talked about this, but we haven't. It's all new stuff. Because I looked at the papers and there's always something new on those. They're great.
Well, good on you, Steve.
Love them.
Be back next week.
See you next week.
Bye. Excuse me, everybody. I have a very important announcement. News just in.
Right.
But seriously, guys. I'm a bit of a technophobe, Steve-o.
Yeah, I know.
I've got to say that, right? I mean, like we just sit here and like we just yabber on. I mean, thank God for Matt and Lauren. And look, for those that don't know, we've got a really awesome team that sit behind us that actually help us with all of our technological things, right? And I mean, like editing the podcasts and doing up the socials and the reels and all the rest of it. And they've gone, you guys are useless. No, they've gone, you guys, which we are. We're like babes in the woods and we just sit there and wait for our bottle to be shoved in our mouth. But guys, there's something that you could do that could actually really help us a lot. And it's something that we're keen to do is to get the news out there, to talk to people, to help as many people as possible. And we need your help to be able to do that. So, what we'd like to do is a shout out for Instagram stories that we can repurpose the stories on our Instagram account and generate a buzz around the topics and the podcast. So what we would love to hear from you guys is your favorite podcast episode and topics so that we can share them with us on Instagram and tag ATP Science so that we can share them with everyone each week. If you can help us with just a bit of love, sharing us on Insta, and sort of tagging us in those sorts of things. Apparently, Steve, through the magic of the World Wide Web, it's funny. Tony and I were watching this thing the other day, and we saw this old guy giving an interview, and he go, "Where can they reach you?" And it's like, www. It's like, that's a no-no, right?
No, you Google whatever.
Yeah. Well, HTTP.
Oh, yes.
// No, we don't do that anymore. No. Right? But anyway, Steve and I are nearly that useless.
Yes.
But if you could definitely help us by sharing the love, by sharing those hashtags, sharing us on Insta, any of that sort of stuff, as well as obviously liking and subscribing and turning on notifications.
I'm glad you did this bit because I don't know what that.
I'm like a parrot. I've learnt my rope. It's like, what is an Instagram? No, I'm kidding. But yeah, that would be really, really great. So again, guys, thank you for support, and really, really, that's great.